Ladies and gentlemen, in a world where oversharing is the new norm, silence has become a rare art. We live in a culture that constantly asks, "Tell me everything about you." But what if strength isn't in what you share, it's in what you protect? True confidence doesn't need constant validation. It moves quietly, speaks selectively, and holds its peace with purpose. When you stop giving people front row seats to your private life, you reclaim your power. You stop being an open book for others to read, misinterpret, and weaponize. You begin to live from a place of calm control where your peace is not up for discussion and your emotions are not public property. Privacy is one of the most misunderstood qualities in modern life. Many people mistake it for secrecy, when in truth, privacy is a form of self-respect. It's about protecting the sacred parts of yourself that are not meant for public consumption. The digital age has conditioned us to believe that visibility equals validation, that being known is the same as being valued. But true value doesn't need to be broadcast. True power exists in what remains unseen, in the calm assurance that you do not owe the world access to every thought, feeling, or struggle. The more you protect your personal life, the more you preserve your sense of identity. When you learn to withhold details of your emotions, plans, or insecurities, you begin to cultivate a strength that cannot be shaken by opinions or gossip. The power of privacy lies in its ability to create emotional independence. When your happiness, pain, and aspirations are not constantly being evaluated by others, you begin to experience a deeper form of freedom. You are no longer performing for approval or adjusting your truth to fit into someone else's perception. Every time you choose silence over explanation, you strengthen your emotional foundation. People who overshare often lose control of their narrative. They open too many doors for judgment and confusion. But those who are private remain grounded. They understand that not everything needs to be said, and not every part of their journey requires an audience. Silence becomes their strategy, and focus becomes their strength. When you practice privacy, you start to notice how much of your energy returns to you. Oversharing is a subtle drain. It disperses your emotional and mental power across too many ears, too many eyes, too many opinions. Privacy, however, gathers that energy back. It keeps your focus intact and your emotions centered. You begin to think more clearly because your attention is no longer scattered. Every word you withhold becomes a form of self-discipline, a reminder that not every situation deserves a reaction, and not every person deserves a revelation. That restraint isn't coldness, it's maturity. It means you understand the difference between expression and exposure. Privacy also cultivates strategic power. When people don't know your next move, they cannot interfere with it. When they don't know what hurts you, they can't use it against you. When they don't know your weaknesses, they can't manipulate your emotions. The less you reveal, the more unpredictable you become. And unpredictability is protection. People cannot control what they cannot predict. A private person doesn't act out of fear, but out of intention. They understand that speaking less doesn't mean feeling less. It simply means choosing peace over performance. Their strength lies in being centered, not seen. Finally, privacy allows you to preserve your sacred energy. Every part of you, your dreams, your heartbreaks, your insecurities, carries energy. When you share those things too freely, you scatter that energy into spaces where it may not be safe or valued. But when you keep those parts of you close, they mature in silence. Your goals grow stronger when nurtured in private. Your healing deepens when protected from external noise. Privacy becomes a spiritual practice one that honors your growth without needing the applause of others. The more you protect what's precious, the more aligned you become with your inner strength. You no longer live for attention, you live for authenticity. To understand privacy is to understand self-containment, the ability to hold yourself together without needing validation or exposure. You begin to move differently, calmer, quieter, more intentional. You no longer rush to prove, defend, or announce. You become content in knowing that your power doesn't need to be seen to exist. You can walk into any room with quiet confidence, knowing that no one truly knows what drives you, what heals you, or what you're building next. And that's the most powerful position to be in. To be seen, yet unknown, to be present, yet private, to be strong, yet silent. One of the most damaging misconceptions people hold is that being open with everyone creates understanding and connection. But in truth, overexposure often breeds misunderstanding. The more details you share about your personal life, emotions, or intentions, the more opportunities people have to misinterpret them. Human beings are naturally subjective. They see your story through the lens of their own experiences, biases, and insecurities. That means what you share can easily be twisted, minimized, or weaponized. When you expose too much of your private world, you hand others the materials to build false narratives about you. Not everyone who listens to your story wants to understand it. Some want to dissect it, control it, or use it for their own gain. Overexposure happens when your desire to be understood outweighs your awareness of who deserves access to you. Many people share personal information out of loneliness or a craving for connection. But connection without discernment invites confusion. When you share your struggles or dreams with people who haven't earned your trust, you invite assumptions instead of empathy. They may start interpreting your words through their own limited perspective, creating stories about you that don't reflect reality. This is why being selective about what you reveal is not about distrust. It's about wisdom. You're not closing yourself off. You're curating your energy. You're choosing who gets to hold the weight of your truth. There's also a psychological consequence to overexposure. When you talk too much about your emotions or goals before you've processed them fully, you dilute their meaning. It's like taking a seed out of the soil too soon. It loses its chance to grow strong roots. Every time you prematurely share a dream or a personal struggle, you expose it to unnecessary external energy. Some will discourage you, others will doubt you, and a few may even subtly compete with you. Over time, this erodes your confidence and creates self-doubt. You begin to question your own path, not because it lacks clarity, but because too many voices have interfered with it. Silence, in contrast, allows your thoughts to mature privately. It gives your emotions time to settle before being shared with others who may not understand their depth. The danger of overexposure extends beyond personal relationships. It affects how the world perceives your character. When you constantly explain yourself, justify your decisions, or reveal every detail of your life online or in conversations, you unknowingly give people the power to define you. They start forming judgments based on snippets of information, and soon you become trapped in the version of you that they've constructed. Overexposure limits your freedom because you've handed out pieces of yourself to too many spectators. You end up living reactively, trying to correct others' misconceptions or defend your truth. But when you protect your privacy, you retain ownership of your story. You no longer need to explain yourself because your actions, energy, and consistency speak louder than any explanation ever could. Most importantly, overexposure prevents genuine connection. When people know too much too soon, they stop being curious about you. They form conclusions instead of building understanding. Real relationships, whether friendships, partnerships, or professional bonds, grow slowly through consistent observation and earn trust. When you overshare, you skip that natural process. You give people instant access to your vulnerabilities without giving them time to prove they deserve it. True intimacy cannot be forced. It's built through gradual revelation. The less you expose, the more space you give for mutual respect, curiosity, and authenticity to develop. Overexposure kills mystery, and without mystery, respect often fades. Learning to control what you reveal is an act of emotional intelligence. It means understanding that not everyone has the emotional capacity to hold your truth with care. It means recognizing that silence is sometimes the most protective form of communication. When you stop offering every detail, people are left with only what you allow them to see, and that's how you maintain your narrative. Let them assume, let them guess, let them wonder. You don't owe anyone an explanation that compromises your peace. Overexposure invites noise, privacy invites clarity. The more you guard your story, the more power you have to shape your life on your terms, unseen, undisturbed, and unapologetically free. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness, but in truth, it is one of the most profound demonstrations of strength and control. When you choose silence in a noisy world, a world where everyone feels compelled to comment, react, and explain, you rise above the chaos. You create an emotional distance between yourself and the unpredictable reactions of others. Silence is not about suppression. It is about preservation. It means giving your emotions room to breathe before they are exposed to judgment, misunderstanding, or exploitation. When you withhold your thoughts in moments of confusion or anger, you give yourself the space to process, to think, and to choose your words with intention. In that space, emotional maturity is born. Talking too much about your emotions can create emotional dependency. The more you express your pain or frustration to others, the more you begin to rely on their responses for emotional regulation. Over time, this makes your peace vulnerable to their approval or rejection. But when you learn to sit in silence, to process your emotions privately, you start developing inner stability, a kind of calm that isn't easily shaken by external reactions. Silence helps you anchor yourself in self-awareness. You learn that not every feeling requires a witness, not every conflict demands a response, and not every thought deserves to be spoken aloud. You become your own safe space, your own listener, and your own healer. Silence also shields you from unnecessary emotional exposure. When you constantly express your struggles, frustrations, or fears, you open doors for others to misuse that information. Some may use your vulnerability as ammunition. Others may unconsciously mirror your pain and make it about themselves. Emotional silence is a boundary, a way to protect your inner world from being tampered with. It doesn't mean you're closed off. It means you're discerning. You understand that your emotions are sacred and not everyone has earned the right to witness them. True stability comes when you no longer feel the need to explain your every mood or justify your feelings. You simply know them, own them, and manage them within yourself. Another power of silence lies in its ability to transform perception. When you stop reacting impulsively to everything that bothers you, you become unpredictable, and unpredictability commands respect. People cannot manipulate what they cannot read. When you stay quiet, you maintain control over the narrative. Silence allows others to reveal themselves while you observe with clarity. In heated situations, the one who speaks less often has the most power because they aren't wasting energy proving a point. They're conserving it for understanding. That's why emotionally stable people rarely feel the urge to argue. They already know that truth doesn't need to shout. Silence becomes their protection, and observation becomes their wisdom. Lastly, silence is healing. It gives your mind the stillness it needs to reorganize thoughts, calm anxiety, and find meaning in chaos. When you constantly talk about your emotions, you keep reliving them. But when you choose silence, you allow them to settle, to transform into lessons instead of wounds. Emotional healing doesn't always happen through talking. Sometimes it happens through listening, reflection, and solitude. Silence teaches you to trust your own voice above the noise of others. It reminds you that peace isn't found in constant expression, but in quiet understanding. To live silently is to live in alignment with your inner truth. It doesn't mean avoiding expression forever. It means knowing when to speak and when to protect your peace. It means recognizing that emotional strength isn't about being loud, it's about being steady. When you master the art of silence, you master your emotions. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You realize that the calmest person in the room often holds the most power, not because they say the most, but because they've learned that silence can speak volumes. There's an undeniable power in restraint, in the quiet confidence of a person who doesn't feel the need to explain themselves, defend every decision, or announce every move. The truth is, people respect what they don't fully understand. When you maintain a certain level of privacy and self-control, you command attention without demanding it. Those who hold their cards close, who move with quiet purpose, naturally create an aura of strength. It's not arrogance, it's self-possession. When you choose not to reveal everything about yourself, people sense your composure. They see that you're not dependent on their validation or approval, and that independence becomes magnetic. People may not always articulate it, but they deeply respect those who carry themselves with dignity, boundaries, and mystery. Revealing too much too soon weakens the sense of respect others hold for you. When people can easily access your thoughts, emotions, or plans, they subconsciously start taking them for granted. Overexposure removes the sense of depth that draws people in. Think about it. Mystery invites curiosity, and curiosity leads to admiration. When you share every detail of your life, you remove the wonder. You make yourself predictable, and predictability over time breeds indifference. On the other hand, when you move silently, when you let your actions speak before your words, you keep people attentive. They observe you more carefully because they can't fully figure you out. Your silence creates intrigue. Your boundaries create respect. The less you reveal, the more people are drawn to your presence, trying to understand what makes you so centered. Respect also grows from self-control. When people see that you don't rush to overshare your struggles or boast about your victories, they begin to trust your maturity. They understand that you are not emotionally impulsive or attention-seeking. You move with balance. You express, but never excessively. You speak, but always intentionally. This calm restraint sets you apart in a world full of noise. It signals that you are grounded in your own sense of worth. You don't need to announce your power because you embody it. People who overshare often appear uncertain or insecure, constantly trying to convince others of their value. But those who are selective about what they reveal radiate quiet confidence. And that's the kind of presence that earns enduring respect. There's another dimension to this. When you don't reveal too much, people stop feeling entitled to your inner world. They learn that access to your emotions and thoughts is a privilege, not a right. This sets a powerful boundary. It shifts the dynamic of how others interact with you. When people realize that you don't open up easily, they treat what little you do share with care. They listen more intently. They choose their words more carefully, and they handle your truth with more reverence. In contrast, when you're overly open, others can become careless, not because they're cruel, but because familiarity often breeds complacency. Holding something back, your plans, your emotions, your intentions, reminds people that there are parts of you they'll never fully own, and that keeps their respect intact. Finally, the choice to remain private about certain things is not about hiding, it's about protecting your value. Diamonds are valuable because they are rare and difficult to access. The same principle applies to your personal life and emotional energy. When you constantly reveal everything about yourself, you dilute your power. But when you keep your private thoughts and experiences sacred, they gain meaning and weight. People notice that your presence carries something unspoken, a sense of discipline, of control, of inner richness. And that's where respect truly forms. It's not just about how well you speak or how much you achieve. It's about how well you carry what others cannot see. To be respected, you don't need to speak louder. You need to speak less but mean more. You don't need to be transparent. You need to be authentic, but selective. People will always be curious, always seeking to know more. But the more they realize they can't access everything, the more they value the little they do. In a time where everyone overshares for attention, your silence will stand out. It will communicate authority, calm, and wisdom. Remember this: people respect what they can't easily touch, understand, or possess. Your boundaries aren't walls, they're the structure that upholds your worth. Protecting your inner world is not just emotional strength, it's the very foundation of lasting respect. There comes a time in life when you realize that not everyone deserves a front row seat to your journey. Not everyone who smiles at you wishes you well, and not everyone who asks questions deserves answers. The more you grow, the more you understand that peace doesn't come from being understood. It comes from being selective. Your silence, your privacy, and your boundaries are not signs of distance. They are signs of wisdom. They show that you've learned to protect your inner world, to preserve your energy, and to respect the sacredness of your own story. The power of your life lies in what you don't say. The more you keep to yourself, the more control you maintain over your emotions, your goals, and your direction. You begin to move with intention, no longer reacting to every whisper or judgment. You understand that not everything needs to be explained, that the loudest presence often belongs to the quietest person in the room. When you embrace privacy, you free yourself from the exhausting need to be seen or approved. You stop performing and you start being. That shift transforms you. It makes you grounded, focused, and untouchable. When you don't let people know too much about you, you protect yourself from manipulation, misunderstanding, and misuse. You stop handing others the keys to your peace. The world becomes quieter, not because it changes, but because you've learned to tune out the noise. You begin to recognize that your power grows in silence. Every decision you make in private, every goal you work on quietly, and every emotion you choose not to explain becomes a brick in the foundation of your strength. Privacy turns chaos into clarity. There's beauty in being known for your calm rather than your chaos, for your discipline rather than your drama. The people who truly value you will respect your silence, not pressure you to break it. They will see the depth of your character in your restraint, not in your revelations. Because real strength doesn't boast, it breathes. It moves in quiet confidence, in steady focus, in peace that doesn't seek an audience. So don't be afraid to pull back. Don't feel guilty for being private, quiet, or reserved. Protect your peace as fiercely as you protect your dreams. Remember, people can only harm what they can touch. They can only judge what they can see, and they can only manipulate what you reveal. Keep your emotions guarded, your plans silent, and your growth sacred. Let your actions, not your words, tell your story. The less people know about you, the more powerful your presence becomes. Because mystery isn't about hiding, it's about mastery.